There is a theory that suggests Pokémon battles are not training at all. They are a form of psychological conditioning, not just for Pokémon, but for humans. The cheerful framing of battles, gyms, and leagues hides a deeper function, teaching both species to normalize conflict, obedience, and power imbalance from an early age. This theory begins with a simple question: why are children sent out alone at such a young age? In the Pokémon world, 10-year-olds leave home, face danger, and are praised for defeating others in combat. Adults encourage this without hesitation. Loss is brushed off, injury is temporary, fear is framed as excitement. Under this theory, the journey isn't about adventure, it's about acclimation. Pokémon battles are ritualized violence with strict rules. Pokémon take damage but rarely die. Winners are rewarded, losers are expected to accept defeat quietly. Status conditions wear off. Everything resets. This creates a controlled environment where domination is normalized, but consequences are removed. Over time, both trainers and Pokémon learn the same lesson. Power struggles are natural, authority is earned through strength, and resistance is temporary. Pokémon obedience becomes especially unsettling through this lens. Pokémon almost always follow commands instantly, even when ordered into danger. Disobedience is treated as a flaw to be corrected through training or bonding. Badges don't just unlock progression, they enforce compliance. Pokémon refuse to obey trainers without sufficient badges, not because they are incapable, but because the system demands proof of authority before submission is allowed. The theory suggests this structure was designed deliberately. Long ago, humans may have lost control over Pokémon or feared them. Rather than eliminate Pokémon, society reshaped interaction into sport. Gyms became controlled testing grounds. Leagues became institutions of legitimacy. The strongest trainers rose to the top not just as champions, but as symbols of acceptable dominance. Even Pokémon centers play a role. Injuries vanish instantly. Trauma leaves no visible scars. This removes fear from combat, encouraging repetition. When pain has no lasting cost, conflict becomes addictive. Trainers chase battles not for survival, but validation. Pokémon learn that suffering is meaningless if it pleases their trainer. This conditioning may explain why Pokémon rarely attack humans unprovoked. Not because they are harmless, but because restraint has been trained into them across generations. Wild Pokémon are labeled aggressive, unpredictable, and dangerous, reinforcing the idea that only trained, controlled Pokémon are acceptable. Freedom becomes associated with chaos. Capture becomes associated with safety. Legendary Pokémon disrupt this system, which is why they are feared. They resist control. They do not obey easily. They challenge authority structures and destabilize regions simply by existing. When a legendary awakens, society reacts not with curiosity, but with urgency. It's a reminder of power that cannot be easily conditioned. This theory also reframes the bond between trainer and Pokémon. Affection exists, but so does dependency. Pokémon grow stronger through praise, care, and validation. Their sense of self becomes tied to performance. When they evolve, it's celebrated as success. When they fail, it's framed as something to fix. Over time, identity and utility blur together. The creepiest implication is that no one questions this system because it works. Society is peaceful, conflict is managed, power is regulated. Pokémon appear happy. Trainers feel fulfilled. But that doesn't mean it's ethical. It means it's effective. If this theory is true, then the Pokémon journey is not about becoming a hero. It's about becoming comfortable with authority, hierarchy, and controlled violence, all wrapped in bright colors and friendly creatures. And perhaps the most unsettling part is that the system doesn't need to force anyone to participate. Everyone enters willingly. The Alola region feels peaceful at first, bathed in sunlight, warm ocean breezes, and a strong sense of community. Inspired by island cultures, Alola presents itself as a place where humans and Pokémon live in harmony, guided by tradition rather than conquest. But beneath this calm surface lies one of the strangest and most unsettling chapters in Pokémon lore. Alola is a region where the boundaries between worlds grow thin, where familiar rules break down, and where cosmic forces quietly watch from beyond reality. Unlike previous regions, Alola has no traditional gym system. Instead, it follows island trials overseen by kahunas and guardian deities. The Tapu Pokémon, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, and Tapu Fini are worshipped as protectors, yet their behavior is unpredictable and often dangerous. They do not protect humans out of kindness, but out of instinct, tradition, and balance. This introduces a key theme of Alola. Nature is not gentle or cruel. It simply exists, and humans must adapt to it. At the center of Alola's deeper lore are the Ultra Beasts. These creatures are not Pokémon in the traditional sense, but invasive life forms from other dimensions. Nihilego, with its translucent parasitic body, can attach to humans, altering their thoughts and behavior. Buzzwole and Pheromosa are distorted reflections of familiar concepts, exaggerated to an unsettling degree. Their presence introduces cosmic horror into the Pokémon world, suggesting that reality is fragile and that other worlds operate under completely different biological rules. This interdimensional danger is tied closely to the Ether Foundation and Lucamine, one of the most disturbing antagonists in the series. Obsessive, emotionally unstable, and driven by a twisted desire for beauty and preservation, Lucamine becomes physically fused with Nihilego, losing her humanity entirely. Her descent shows how obsession and denial can erode identity, turning love into control and admiration into destruction. Alola doesn't frame its villain as purely evil. Instead, it presents a tragic figure consumed by her own unresolved grief. The legendary Pokémon of Alola further emphasize cosmic imbalance. Solgaleo and Lunala are guardians of the sun and moon, capable of opening ultra wormholes to other dimensions. Necrozma, however, is something far more unsettling. A creature of pure hunger, Necrozma feeds on light itself, leaving entire worlds in darkness. In its ultra form, it becomes a blinding, unstable being, symbolizing unchecked consumption and the collapse of balance. Alola suggests that even cosmic guardians can fail, and that light, when stolen or hoarded, becomes destructive. Even Alola's everyday Pokémon carry strange and sometimes dark implications. Mimikyu disguises itself as Pikachu, desperate for affection, yet its true form is said to cause illness or death if seen. Sandygast and Pelosand are formed from lost souls, swallowed by beaches, turning relaxation into something quietly sinister. Type: Null, an artificially created Pokémon, is restrained by a helmet to prevent emotional collapse, representing humanity's attempt to forcibly control godlike power. Alola also explores themes of family, loss, and healing. Characters struggle with abandonment, grief, and expectation, and Pokémon often reflect these emotional states. The islands themselves feel alive, responding to imbalance and protecting themselves in ways that don't always align with human morality. This creates a sense that Alola is less controlled than previous regions, more raw and unpredictable. What makes Alola especially unique is its blending of warmth and horror. Bright beaches exist alongside interdimensional voids. Friendly communities coexist with parasitic beings from beyond reality. Alola teaches that harmony is not the absence of danger, but the ability to live alongside it. The region's lore suggests that understanding, acceptance, and restraint are the only ways to survive in a universe far stranger than it appears. In the end, Alola is a region where the Pokémon world stops feeling fully safe. It introduces the idea that not everything belongs, that some forces cannot be reasoned with, and that love, when twisted by obsession, can become monstrous. Beneath the sunlight and smiles lies a quiet warning. There are things beyond the stars, watching, waiting, and only thin barriers keep them from spilling into the world. The Kalos region appears beautiful at first glance. Inspired by elegance, art, and culture, it presents itself as a land of fashion, refinement, and harmony. Wide boulevards, grand cities, and peaceful countryside create the impression of a gentle and civilized world. But beneath Kalos's polished surface lies one of the darkest and most unsettling histories in the Pokémon series. This is a region shaped by obsession, immortality, and the terrifying cost of eternal life. At the center of Kalos's lore is the ancient war that occurred 3,000 years ago. This conflict, hinted at through scattered dialogue and ruins, involved humans and Pokémon on a massive scale. Countless lives were lost, and the grief from this destruction gave rise to the ultimate weapon, an enormous machine capable of draining the life force of Pokémon to bring about unimaginable power. This weapon is tied directly to Azed, a towering immortal man who lost his beloved Floette during the war. His grief drove him to create the machine, not for conquest, but to resurrect the one thing he loved most. This act forever changed Kalos. The weapon succeeded in reviving Floette, but at a horrific cost. The energy stolen from countless Pokémon granted AZ eternal life, condemning him to wander the region for thousands of years, burdened by guilt and regret. Kalos is the first region to explore immortality not as a blessing, but as a punishment. AZ's story is quiet, tragic, and deeply unsettling, suggesting that some wounds can never heal, no matter how much time passes. The legendary Pokémon of Kalos embody this theme of life and death. Xerneas represents life, growth, and renewal, radiating energy that restores the world around it. Yveltal, in contrast, represents destruction and death, absorbing the life force of everything nearby when it awakens. When Yveltal reaches the end of its life, it turns into a cocoon, draining all surrounding energy before rebirth. These two forces are not good and evil, but natural opposites, locked in an endless cycle. Kalos suggests that life cannot exist without death, and that balance is maintained through destruction as much as creation. Zygarde, the third legendary, watches over this balance from the shadows. Existing in fragmented forms scattered across the region, Zygarde monitors the ecosystem and intervenes only when the natural order is threatened. This makes Kalos feel watched, as if the land itself has a guardian silently observing humanity's choices. Zygarde's incomplete state also hints that the balance of Kalos is unstable, fractured by the scars of the ancient war and humanity's past mistakes. Many Kalos Pokémon reflect themes of beauty hiding danger. Aegislash, a possessed sword and shield, is said to control kings, draining their life force in exchange for power. Its presence suggests that authority and ambition often come at a hidden cost. Gourgeist, a ghost-type Pokémon born from spirits, sings joyfully as it carries souls into the afterlife, blending cheerfulness with something deeply unsettling. Even Espurr, with its blank stare and restrained power, is said to cause destruction if it loses control, reinforcing the idea that calm appearances can conceal overwhelming force. Kalos also explores identity and transformation. Mega Evolution, introduced in this region, allows Pokémon to temporarily exceed their natural limits, but often at a cost. Some Mega Pokédex entries describe pain, loss of control, or violent impulses during Mega Evolution. This raises disturbing questions about whether forcing Pokémon beyond their limits is truly an act of partnership or exploitation. Kalos quietly asks whether humanity has learned anything from its past obsession with power. The region's ghosts and psychics further deepen its eerie atmosphere. Phantomp is said to be formed from the spirit of a child lost in the forest, now guiding others through the woods. Pumpkaboo carries wandering souls, drifting through the night. These stories aren't presented loudly or dramatically. They exist quietly, woven into Pokédex entries, making Kalos's darkness feel subtle but constant. What makes Kalos especially haunting is its contrast. Grand palaces and peaceful towns stand atop a history of mass death. Art, fashion, and beauty thrive in a region built on tragedy and regret. The war may be over, but its consequences linger in immortal beings, fractured guardians, and Pokémon tied to the cycle of life and death. Kalos suggests that civilization often moves forward without fully reckoning with the suffering that made it possible. In the end, Kalos is a region about consequences. It asks what happens when grief goes unchecked, when power is pursued for love or ambition, and when humanity refuses to let go of the past. Behind its elegance lies a quiet warning. Even the most beautiful world can be built on unimaginable loss. And sometimes the greatest curse isn't death, but living forever with the memory of what you've done. The first generation of Pokémon, the Kanto region, is more than just a nostalgic trip for fans. It's a world packed with strange secrets, dark backstories, and bizarre inspirations that make these creatures far more than simple battle companions. Take Bulbasaur, for example, the very first Pokémon in the National Dex. Its plant bulb isn't just a cute accessory, it actually grows as it absorbs sunlight, symbolizing the symbiotic relationship between Pokémon and nature. This idea of growth and adaptation runs deeper than most players realize, hinting that even the smallest creatures in Kanto are connected to the rhythms of the world around them. Meanwhile, Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur, the original starters, represent a triangle of elements, but they also reflect deeper archetypes. Fire for ambition and risk, water for flexibility and emotion, and grass for patience and resilience. This simple triangle of types is also a subtle metaphor for the balance of nature itself. Some Pokémon hide truly tragic lore. Cubone, for example, wears the skull of its deceased mother and cries inconsolably at night. Its wails are not just a game mechanic, they tell a story of grief, loss, and survival. Marowak, the adult form, embodies this sorrow as a spirit of resilience. Then there's Jinx, a humanoid psychic Pokémon with origins shrouded in mystery. While its original design sparked controversy, some theorists suggest Jinx's dancing, psychic nature may be inspired by shamanistic rituals, giving it an almost mystical aura. Even Pokémon like Exeggcute, which look like a cluster of harmless eggs, hint at something deeper. Some speculate it represents collective consciousness, a single organism with many minds working in unison, a concept both fascinating and a little unsettling. Kanto itself hides secrets beyond the Pokémon. Lavender Town, for instance, is famous for its eerie music and ghost-type Pokémon. Pokémon Tower, a graveyard for departed creatures, introduces the concept of the afterlife in this world. Players encounter restless spirits like Ghastly, Haunter, and the ghost of a Marowak, giving the game an unexpectedly somber and haunting atmosphere. Even ordinary places, like the caves where Zubat and Geodude dwell, subtly hint at ecosystems and life thriving in harsh environments. Geodude, seemingly a simple rock monster, may be inspired by the idea that life can exist even in the most barren, inorganic places. Some Pokémon hint at real-world science and experimentation. Magnemite and Magneton, for example, aren't just electric-type Pokémon. They echo early understandings of electromagnetism. Ditto, one of the strangest Pokémon, raises even more questions. Its ability to transform into any other Pokémon may not just be a battle trick. Some theories suggest Ditto is a failed clone of Mew, which could explain its amorphous form and occasionally imperfect transformations. This theory links Ditto to the creation of Mewtwo, one of the most iconic and ethically complex Pokémon in the series. Mew itself is wrapped in mystery, rare, elusive, and said to contain the genetic code of every Pokémon species. It represents not just power, but the very origin of Pokémon life, hinting at a deeper, almost mythical creation story. Even the seemingly weak or ordinary Pokémon have their oddities. Pidgey and Rattata, often overlooked, embody survivalist instincts drawn from real-world animals, thriving in environments where others might fail. Snorlax, the giant, lazy Pokémon, is said to absorb energy for centuries, a subtle hint at longevity and the passage of time. And then there's Missing No, the infamous glitch Pokémon. Encountering it isn't just a fun secret, it reveals the underlying architecture of the game, breaking reality in ways players weren't meant to see and hinting at hidden layers of the Pokémon world that exist beyond what the creators intended. The first generation of Pokémon is full of these strange intersections between mythology, science, tragedy, and the unexplained. Some creatures seem inspired by natural life, some by folklore, and some, like Ditto and Missing No, by mysteries that exist only in the code itself. From the emotional depth of Cubone and the eerie presence of the Lavender Town ghosts to the cryptic origins of Mew and Ditto, Kanto is a world where every Pokémon has a story, and many of them are darker, stranger, or more fascinating than you might expect. Exploring this world isn't just about catching creatures or winning battles. It's about uncovering hidden lore, pondering existential mysteries, and discovering that even in a game designed for children, there is depth, tragedy, and wonder lurking in every corner. In short, Generation Y isn't just the beginning of Pokémon, it's the beginning of a world where every creature carries secrets, every location holds a story, and the line between science, myth, and the unexplained is thinner than you might think. From Mew's ultimate mystery to the small, unnoticed oddities of everyday Pokémon, Kanto is a place that rewards curiosity, imagination, and even a little fear. For those willing to look beyond the battles and the badges, it's a world filled with some of the craziest, most fascinating facts the Pokémon universe has ever produced. There is a theory whispered among longtime fans that reframes the entire Pokémon world into something far more disturbing than it appears. It suggests that Pokémon are not simply creatures living alongside humans, but that many of them are what remains after humans die. Not as ghosts in every case, but as something transformed, recycled, or repurposed by the world itself. According to this theory, death in the Pokémon universe is not an end, but a conversion. This idea begins quietly, with Pokédex entries that are far too specific to be harmless. Ghost-type Pokémon repeatedly reference human spirits. Yamask carries a mask that was once its human face and sometimes weeps when it remembers its past life. Phantom is said to be born from children who died lost in forests. Drifloon lures children away, and Banette is created from discarded objects, fueled by resentment. These are not vague myths, they are direct statements. The theory asks, if these are the exceptions we are told about, how many others exist that we are not? From here, the theory widens. Pokémon evolution begins to look less like biology and more like transition. Many Pokémon change form through trauma, exposure, or emotional intensity rather than age. Evolution triggered by friendship, grief, nighttime, or specific locations feels symbolic rather than natural. What if evolution is not growth, but adaptation after death? The soul reshaping itself to survive in a world it no longer belongs to. This could explain why Pokémon seem endlessly resilient compared to humans. They faint instead of dying. They recover instantly at Pokémon centers. They can survive conditions that would kill a human outright. If Pokémon are no longer bound by human limitations, then battle becomes less violent and more ritualistic, a leftover instinct in a world where death already happened once. The theory grows darker when considering how Pokémon and humans interact. Pokémon obey humans instinctively. They seek approval, form bonds quickly, and remain loyal even when harmed. This loyalty could be explained as companionship, or as something more tragic, a subconscious memory of being human once, a lingering desire to belong to human society again, even in a diminished form. Pokeballs themselves become unsettling under this lens. They don't force Pokemon inside. Pokemon willingly enter them, almost eagerly, as if returning to a contained, safe space feels familiar, like a coffin, or a womb, or a memory of rest. This could explain why Pokémon resist capture only when they distrust the trainer. Not because they fear containment, but because they fear who they will be bound to. Legendary Pokémon complicate the theory further. What if they are not gods, but accumulations of countless souls? Spiritomb is literally made of 108 spirits bound together. Giratina rules a world of distortion and exile. Yveltal absorbs life energy indiscriminately. These beings don't feel like creators. They feel like consequences, manifestations of mass death, catastrophe, or imbalance that grew too large to remain unseen. The Pokémon Tower in Lavender Town becomes central to this idea. It is not simply a graveyard, it is a transition site. Spirits appear restless there. A Marowak refuses to pass on until acknowledged. Silence and respect calm the dead. The tower doesn't mourn Pokémon, it processes them. Suggesting death is common enough to require infrastructure. Even Arceus, often described as the creator, may fit this theory in a chilling way. Rather than creating life, Arceus may govern rebirth, ensuring souls are recycled into Pokémon forms to prevent true extinction. This would make the Pokémon world not a paradise, but a closed system, a reality where nothing ever truly escapes. Life loops endlessly, reshaped again and again. If this theory is true, then trainers are not adventurers, they are caretakers of the dead, traveling alongside transformed souls who no longer remember their past lives, but still feel echoes of them. Friendship becomes sacred, abuse becomes unforgivable, and the bond between trainer and Pokémon becomes something far heavier than a game mechanic. It becomes trust between the living and the already lost. Perhaps that is why Pokémon never speak. Not because they can't, but because they've already said everything they needed to say once before. And now all that remains is loyalty, instinct, and the quiet hope that this new form of existence is gentler than the last one they left behind. There is a theory that suggests the Pokémon world is not natural at all, that it is an artificial reality built to contain something far more dangerous. According to this idea, the cheerful landscapes, friendly creatures, and structured rules of battles exist not for adventure, but for control. The Pokémon world is not a wild ecosystem. It is a stabilized enclosure. This theory begins with one unsettling observation. The Pokémon world operates on rules that feel intentionally constrained. Battles rarely result in death. Pokémon faint instead of dying. Damage is reversible. Cities exist without visible governments or militaries. Technology is highly advanced, yet selectively limited. It's as if the world has been engineered to prevent escalation. Not to stop conflict, but to keep it manageable. Legendary Pokémon play a central role in this theory. They are often described as guardians, keepers, or regulators. Zygarde monitors ecosystems. Rayquaza prevents planetary collapse. Dialga and Palkia maintain time and space. These are not rulers, they are maintenance systems. Their awakenings are treated as emergencies, like containment failures. When legendaries appear, it's never normal. It's a breach. This theory proposes that long ago reality broke, whether through ancient war, cosmic disaster, or uncontrolled evolution. Something in the universe became unstable. Rather than erase existence entirely, a controlled reality was created, one with limits, rules, and predictable outcomes. Pokémon are the stabilized life forms of this system, designed to channel violence into ritualized battles instead of uncontrolled destruction. Under this lens, Pokémon battles resemble simulations more than combat. Moves follow strict rules. Type matchups are mathematically consistent. Even status effects are regulated. Pokémon do not attack humans directly unless provoked, and even then rarely cause permanent harm. This suggests behavioral constraints baked into biology, not evolution, but programming. Ultra Beasts threaten this system because they are not adapted to it. They do not follow normal rules. Their biology is exaggerated, unstable, and often parasitic. Necrozma consumes light itself. Eternatus radiates uncontrollable energy. These beings feel like remnants of the pre-contained universe, things that never fully adapted to the new reality. That is why they feel wrong. Humans in this theory are not creators, but caretakers. Their role is to guide Pokémon, maintain balance, and reinforce the system through tradition and structure. Gyms, leagues, trials, and rankings are not sports. They are feedback loops. They ensure power is distributed, monitored, and kept within safe thresholds. Trainers who grow too powerful are immediately challenged, tested, or redirected. Even Pokédexes become unsettling. They catalog everything, measure it, quantify danger. Knowledge is treated as safety. Anything unknown is a risk. This suggests a world obsessed with documentation, not out of curiosity, but fear. Fear of something slipping through the cracks. The creepiest part of this theory is what it implies about freedom. Pokémon seem happy. Humans seem fulfilled. But happiness may be a side effect of stability, not proof of choice. If the world is a containment system, then everyone inside it, Pokémon and human alike, may be living in a carefully curated illusion designed to feel complete. And if that's true, then the most dangerous question isn't what's inside the Pokémon world, but what exists outside it. Because the barriers between dimensions keep weakening. Ultra wormholes open. Paradox Pokémon appear. Legends awaken more frequently. Containment is failing. Perhaps the Pokémon world was never meant to last forever. It was meant to hold reality together, just long enough for something else to be figured out. And until then, everyone inside continues their journeys, battles, friendships, and dreams, unaware that the peace they cherish may be nothing more than the calm inside a cage. There is a theory that suggests Pokémon are not born naturally anymore. They are manufactured by the world itself to replace something that keeps disappearing. According to this idea, Pokémon reproduction is not the origin of Pokémon life, but a maintenance process. The world is losing something essential, and Pokémon exist to fill the gap before anyone notices it's gone. This theory starts with an uncomfortable observation. Humans in the Pokémon world are strangely static. There are very few elderly people. Parents are often absent. Time passes, yet towns barely change. Children leave home at 10 years old and travel indefinitely without consequence. Entire generations seem to blur together. Meanwhile, Pokémon are everywhere, multiplying, adapting, appearing in new forms constantly. The imbalance raises a question. What if Pokémon are increasing because humans are slowly fading? Pokédex entries often mention Pokémon appearing suddenly, forming from objects, emotions, or environmental conditions. Trubbish forms from pollution, Grimer from industrial waste, Haunage from abandoned weapons, Yamask from dead humans, Phantump from lost children. These Pokémon are not born, they manifest. The theory suggests that when something is neglected, discarded, or lost, the world reshapes it into a Pokémon to prevent absence. Under this theory, Pokémon eggs are not traditional reproduction. They are condensation points, places where excess energy, emotion, or memory solidifies into life. This would explain why Pokémon species can appear in regions where they shouldn't exist, why eggs hatch instantly into specific forms, and why Pokémon biology is wildly inconsistent. The world isn't creating life carefully, it's patching holes. Legendary Pokémon fit this theory in a chilling way. They appear when balance is threatened. When time breaks, Dialga responds. When ecosystems collapse, Zygarde acts. When reality fractures, Ultra Beasts emerge. These aren't rulers, they're automated responses. Emergency systems triggered when loss reaches critical levels. Humans unknowingly accelerate this process. Cities grow, forests shrink, history is forgotten. Pokémon appear to replace what's missing. Forest spirits become grass types. Extinct animals return as fossils reanimated by technology. Even ancient gods become Pokémon that can be captured, cataloged, and stored. Nothing is allowed to fully disappear. Everything is repurposed. This reframes the role of trainers in a disturbing way. Trainers don't just catch Pokémon, they stabilize them. Wild Pokémon are chaotic, reactive, sometimes dangerous. Captured Pokémon become calmer, focused, directed. Perhaps Pokéballs aren't tools of control, but containment, preventing unstable manifestations from growing unchecked. The theory becomes especially eerie when considering Paradox Pokémon and Ultra Beasts. These creatures feel exaggerated, unfinished, or unstable. They may represent rushed replacements, attempts by the world to fill gaps too quickly. When loss accelerates, quality declines. The system starts producing monsters instead of companions. Even the concept of friendship-based evolution becomes unsettling. Pokémon grow stronger when bonded to humans, as if human attention is required to keep them coherent. Without connection, they stagnate, regress, or become hostile. This suggests Pokémon rely on humans not emotionally, but structurally, like reflections that need an observer to remain solid. The most disturbing implication is what this means for the future. If Pokémon are replacing what disappears, then what happens when humans themselves become scarce? Will the world create something else to replace them? Something similar, but not quite right? Perhaps that's why the Pokémon world feels so gentle. Why danger is softened. Why death rarely sticks. The system is trying to preserve stability at all costs. A world afraid of emptiness will do anything to avoid it, even if that means filling itself with artificial life, looping stories, and endless substitutes. If this theory is true, then Pokémon are not companions by coincidence. They are placeholders, living reminders of things the world has already lost, and quiet warnings of what might disappear next. There is a theory that suggests Pokémon do not evolve forward, they evolve away. Away from something they were never meant to become. According to this idea, Pokémon evolution is not progress, but degradation. Each evolutionary stage represents a loss of memory, awareness, or original purpose, slowly reshaping intelligent beings into simpler, more controllable forms. This theory begins with a strange inconsistency. Many unevolved Pokémon display high intelligence, emotional awareness, and even moral understanding. Pokémon like Abra can teleport to avoid danger. Ralts senses human emotions and seeks kindness. Riolu can read aura, detecting intentions and feelings. Yet, as many Pokémon evolve, their behavior becomes more aggressive, more instinct-driven, and less emotionally expressive. The theory asks a disturbing question. What if evolution is not growth, but erosion? Consider Alakazam. Its Pokédex entries claim it has an IQ of over 5,000, yet it barely communicates and spends most of its time isolated, lost in thought. Metagross, a supercomputer Pokémon, thinks constantly but expresses no emotion. Garchomp, Tyranitar, and Hydreigon become more violent and destructive with evolution. If evolution represents advancement, why does empathy so often disappear? This theory proposes that Pokémon originally existed as highly intelligent, self-aware beings, perhaps closer to humans or something beyond them. Over time, exposure to battles, environments, and evolutionary triggers caused their consciousness to fracture. Evolution didn't make them stronger. It made them simpler, more physical, less reflective, easier to direct. Evolution stones deepen this unease. Stone-evolved Pokémon often stop learning new moves naturally. Their growth halts abruptly. It's as if the stone forces a premature transformation, locking the Pokémon into a final state before it is ready. Trainers celebrate this as power gain, but under this theory, it represents cognitive sacrifice, immediate strength traded for long-term awareness. Mega evolution and other temporary power-ups feel even more disturbing through this lens. Several Pokédex entries describe Mega Pokémon experiencing pain, rage, or loss of control. Their bodies twist beyond natural limits. If evolution is already a form of degradation, then Mega Evolution becomes forced regression, ripping away remaining restraint to access raw power. The Pokémon becomes stronger, but less itself. This theory also explains why legendary Pokémon rarely evolve. They are often portrayed as ancient, solitary, and emotionally distant, not because they are gods, but because they resisted the evolutionary process. They remained static, unchanged, preserving their original form and purpose. Their isolation may not be arrogance, but necessity. To interact too closely with the modern world would risk the same degradation other Pokémon suffered. Humans play an unsettling role here. Trainers encourage evolution constantly. It's celebrated, expected, rewarded. Pokémon that refuse to evolve are treated as incomplete. Under this theory, humanity unknowingly perpetuates the cycle, mistaking loss for growth. The bond between trainer and Pokémon becomes complicated, built on care, but also on pressure to change. The Pokédex quietly supports this idea in subtle ways. Many evolved Pokémon forget moves they once knew. Baby Pokémon often require incense or special conditions to exist, as if the world itself resists allowing Pokémon to begin life in their most aware forms. It's easier for Pokémon to become less than they were than to start as more. The creepiest implication comes when considering human-Pokémon communication. Pokémon understand human language remarkably well, yet humans cannot understand Pokémon's speech. Perhaps Pokémon once spoke freely, and evolution took that from them. What remains are instincts, cries, and gestures, echoes of something more complex that no longer exists. If this theory is true, then the Pokémon world is not about growth, but forgetting. Each generation of Pokémon becomes more specialized, more powerful, but less aware of what they used to be. Trainers are not villains. They are participants in a system so normalized that no one questions it. And maybe that's why Pokémon continue to trust humans. Not because humans are kind, but because Pokémon no longer remember a time when they didn't. Across the Pokémon world, there are countless mysteries that never receive official answers. Some are hidden in Pokédex entries, others buried in environmental details, and some emerge only when patterns across generations begin to align. These theories aren't about specific regions, but about the nature of Pokémon themselves. What they are, where they come from, and what they might truly represent beneath the surface. One long-standing theory suggests that Pokémon are not simply animals, but physical manifestations of concepts. Ghost Pokémon embody grief, regret, or unfinished business, while psychic types often represent consciousness, perception, or foresight. This could explain why emotions directly affect evolution, power, and behavior. Pokémon like Eevee evolving based on friendship or environment may not be adapting biologically but conceptually, responding to emotional and experiential stimuli rather than genetics alone. Another theory proposes that Pokéballs do not forcibly imprison Pokémon, but instead synchronize with them. Rather than shrinking a Pokémon against its will, Pokéballs may convert Pokémon into energy states they willingly enter. This would explain why Pokémon can refuse capture, escape at will, or even leave their Pokéballs when unhappy. It also reframes the trainer-Pokémon relationship as consent-based rather than coercive, aligning with how Pokémon show loyalty, affection, and agency throughout the series. A darker theory suggests that legendary Pokémon are not singular beings, but the last surviving members of extinct species. Creatures like Lugia, Ho-Oh, or Rayquaza may appear unique not because they are gods, but because their kind has vanished. This would explain why legends portray them as timeless and solitary, and why their presence is often tied to catastrophic events. They are not rulers of nature, but remnants of an older world that humans never truly knew. There is also growing speculation that Ultra Beasts and Paradox Pokémon represent evolutionary dead ends. Rather than being ancestors or descendants, they could be life forms shaped by unstable environments where survival favored extremes. This might explain their exaggerated traits, alien biology, and inability to fully integrate into the Pokémon world. They are not invaders by choice. They are survivors of broken timelines or collapsing ecosystems. One particularly unsettling theory suggests that evolution stones artificially accelerate evolution in ways that may shorten Pokémon lifespans. While evolution through bonding or experience reflects natural growth, stone-based evolution often halts further development. Pokémon like Raichu, Ninetales, and Arcanine rarely evolve again, possibly implying that this forced advancement trades future potential for immediate power. This raises uncomfortable questions about how often trainers choose strength over longevity. Some theorists believe that humans in the Pokémon world are themselves a form of Pokémon. Ancient myths suggest humans and Pokémon once lived as equals, even intermarrying. Psychic abilities, aura sensitivity, and unexplained survivability hint that humans may share deeper biological or spiritual roots with Pokémon. Rather than masters of Pokémon, humans may be a related offshoot that chose technology and control over adaptation and evolution. There's also the idea that the Pokémon world exists in a loop, constantly resetting after catastrophic events. Legendary awakenings, dimensional collapses, and timeline fractures suggest that reality has broken before. Characters like Looker, Zinnia, and the AI Professor hint at awareness beyond a single timeline. This theory proposes that each generation represents a stabilized reset, preserving memory only in myths, legends, and déjà vu-like familiarity. Finally, some believe that Arceus did not create the universe, but merely shaped an already existing chaos. The egg in nothingness may represent the first act of order, not creation. This reframes Arceus not as a god, but as a caretaker, a being tasked with preventing reality from unraveling entirely. If true, then every legendary Pokémon is not divine, but necessary, each maintaining a fragile system constantly on the edge of collapse. Taken together, these theories paint a Pokémon world far deeper and stranger than it appears. A place where emotions shape biology, legends hide extinction, and reality itself may be more fragile than anyone realizes. Pokémon may not just be companions or creatures, but living ideas, echoes of past worlds, and guardians of a balance that could fail at any moment. And perhaps the greatest mystery of all is not what Pokémon are, but why they continue to trust humanity at all. The Galar region presents itself as proud, structured, and powerful. Stadiums tower over cities, battles are treated like national events, and Pokémon training feels more like a professional sport than a personal journey. At first glance, Galar seems confident and controlled, a region that has mastered its relationship with Pokémon. But beneath this ordered exterior lies a story about suppressed history, dangerous ambition, and the consequences of turning living creatures into endless sources of energy. Galar is a region built on spectacle, but haunted by what it chooses to forget. At the center of Galar's mythology is the Darkest Day, a catastrophic event that occurred thousands of years ago. During this time, a powerful Pokémon known as Eternatus descended upon the region, unleashing uncontrolled Dynamax energy that caused Pokémon to grow to monstrous sizes and lose control. The skies darkened, cities were threatened, and the balance between humans and Pokémon nearly collapsed. This event wasn't just a disaster, it was a warning about what happens when power exceeds understanding. The heroes of Galar's past, Zacian and Zamazenta, rose to stop Eternatus. These wolf-like legendary Pokémon wield sword and shield, representing offense and defense, courage and protection. But as time passed, their true story faded into myth, replaced by simplified legends that obscured uncomfortable truths. Galar quietly suggests that history is rewritten to maintain national pride, even if it means burying the full scope of past mistakes. Eternatus itself is one of the most unsettling legendary Pokémon in the series. It is not a god or guardian, but an alien-like being whose very existence radiates toxic energy. Eternatus does not care about balance or coexistence. It consumes energy endlessly, warping Pokémon and environments around it. Its skeletal, distorted form feels unnatural, reinforcing the idea that it does not belong in this world. Galar introduces the idea that some threats are not moral or emotional. They are purely destructive forces that exist beyond negotiation. This theme of exploitation continues through Galar's modern society. Dynamax and Gigantamax battles are celebrated as entertainment and progress, yet they rely on energy linked directly to Eternatus. Chairman Rose, the region's primary antagonist, is not driven by greed or cruelty, but by fear of future scarcity. His willingness to awaken Eternatus early, despite the danger, highlights a recurring theme in Galar: the belief that immediate action and control justify catastrophic risk. Galar asks whether sacrificing stability for security is ever truly justified. Many Galar Pokémon reflect themes of industry, labor, and control. Pokémon like Galarian Weezing purify polluted air, adapting to industrial environments, while Coalossal burns endlessly to power cities. These designs suggest a region that has integrated Pokémon deeply into its infrastructure, blurring the line between partnership and exploitation. Even Copperaja, brought from distant lands for labor, hints at colonialism and resource extraction beneath Galar's proud identity. Galar's ghost and psychic Pokémon deepen its unsettling atmosphere. Sinistea and Poltergeist are born from possessed teacups, quietly haunting homes and cafes. Corsola's Galarian form is a ghost, its body bleached white from environmental collapse, serving as a subtle but haunting reminder of ecological destruction. These Pokémon don't scream horror, they whisper it, blending into everyday life while carrying the scars of neglect. The region's wild area reinforces Galar's tension between control and chaos. Here, Pokémon roam freely, grow to impossible sizes, and defy the structured league system. It feels like a reminder that no matter how advanced society becomes, nature cannot be fully contained. Dynamax storms roll in without warning, and powerful Pokémon dominate the landscape, hinting that the balance Galar relies on is fragile at best. What makes Galar especially chilling is its realism. There are no ancient gods shaping reality here, no cosmic realms beyond comprehension. Instead, the danger comes from human systems, energy dependence, historical revision, industrial expansion, and fear of the future. Eternatus is not summoned by ritual or prophecy, but by corporate decision-making and urgency. In the end, Galar is a region about power and responsibility. It explores what happens when Pokémon become resources, battles become entertainment, and history becomes branding. Behind the roaring crowds and glowing stadiums lies a quiet question. How much risk is acceptable in the name of progress? Galar's story suggests that when power is normalized and danger is buried beneath tradition, catastrophe is never far away, only waiting for the moment someone decides the future matters more than the present. The Unova region marks a turning point in Pokémon lore. Introduced in Pokémon Black and White, Unova feels more modern on the surface, with sprawling cities, bridges, and technology. But beneath that progress lies one of the most philosophical and morally complex stories in the entire series. Unlike Sinnoh, which looks backward toward cosmic creation, Unova looks inward, questioning truth, ideals, and the relationship between humans and Pokémon. It is a region where certainty is challenged, and where the line between right and wrong is deliberately blurred. At the heart of Unova's mythology are the legendary Pokémon Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem. Reshiram represents truth, Zekrom represents ideals, and Kyurem is the hollow shell left behind when those two forces were split apart. According to legend, these Pokémon were once one being that embodied a perfect balance, but conflicting human beliefs caused it to fracture. This story suggests something unsettling, that human disagreement itself can damage the natural order of the world. Unlike earlier legendaries who ruled nature or reality, Unova's legendaries exist because of human conflict, not in spite of it. This theme is embodied in Team Plasma and its leader, N. Unlike previous villains motivated by power or destruction, N genuinely believes Pokémon should be freed from humans. Raised among Pokémon and isolated from society, N can understand Pokémon speech, making him one of the most unique characters in the series. His ideology forces players to confront an uncomfortable question. Is capturing and battling Pokémon truly ethical? Unova is the first region to directly challenge the foundation of the Pokémon world, transforming the story into something closer to a moral debate than a simple adventure. Many Unova Pokémon reflect these themes of duality and identity. Zorua and Zoroark can create powerful illusions, hiding their true forms and blurring the line between reality and deception. Gothitelle is said to see the future, yet is haunted by visions it cannot change, suggesting that knowledge itself can be a burden. Even simple Pokémon like Trubbish and Garbodor, born from pollution, serve as quiet commentary on industrialization and environmental neglect. Unova's Pokémon often feel symbolic, as if they exist to represent ideas rather than just elements. Unova also has a deep connection to ancient history beneath its modern exterior. The relic castle, buried beneath desert sands, hints at a forgotten civilization that once thrived before collapsing into ruin. Volcarona, worshipped as a sun deity after volcanic ash darkened the sky, shows how Pokémon can become saviors in times of desperation. This blend of ancient worship and modern cities gives Unova a unique atmosphere, a place where progress has not erased the past, but built over it, sometimes uneasily. The region's emphasis on change is reinforced by its seasons, which alter landscapes, Pokémon behavior, and even available paths. This constant transformation mirrors Unova's core theme: nothing remains static. People change, beliefs evolve, and even truth can shift depending on perspective. Pokémon like Deerling and Sawsbuck physically change with the seasons, embodying the idea that adaptation is not optional, but necessary for survival. Unova's darker tones continue through its ghost and psychic Pokémon. Yamask carries a mask that was once its human face, occasionally weeping as it remembers its former life. Cofagrigus is said to trap those who disturb its resting place, turning greed and curiosity into punishment. These stories quietly reinforce Unova's fascination with memory, regret, and the consequences of past actions. Even death in Unova is portrayed not as an end, but as a transformation into something unresolved. What makes Unova especially powerful is how grounded its story feels. There are no gods creating the universe here, no cosmic realms beyond comprehension. Instead, the conflict arises from belief, ideology, and human ambition. The legendary Pokémon do not dictate reality. They reflect it. Kyurem, empty and incomplete, symbolizes what happens when truth and ideals are separated, leaving behind something cold and destructive. In the end, Unova is a region about questions rather than answers. Is one truth better than another? Can ideals justify harm? Do humans truly act in Pokémon's best interests? Through its story, characters, and symbolic Pokémon, Unova challenges players to think rather than simply conquer. It transforms the Pokémon journey into something deeper and more introspective, where battles are not just physical, but philosophical. Unova stands as one of the boldest regions in the Pokémon world, a place where progress clashes with tradition, where truth and ideals collide, and where Pokémon exist not just as companions, but as reflections of the beliefs and conflicts that shape the world around them.